give a big Philadelphia welcome to Pete Rose.
Thank you.
How you doing, man?
Thank you.
Good. Want to make sure that's all right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
you. Well, in case you can't tell, Philadelphia loves you, man. They absolutely love you.
I thought we were in Pottstown. We were in Scranton last night. Yesterday morning, we're in Niagara Falls in Toronto, or on the Canadian side, and it's nice to get up to come to church and I don't have to catch an airplane. You were a baseball player.
I was a baseball player, and you didn't draft me either. We'll get to that in a moment. Well, hey, let me just...
I guarantee I could hit you.
Well, hey, a couple things. A couple national sports writers picked up the story, and they were like, Pete's going to church, and we just want to clarify, we asked you to come here, and as a part of our series on second chances. This isn't like some rehabilitation tour for Pete Rose. Right. You've already proved that.
Yeah, I tried to get in here last night, and the doors were locked.
Well, hey, it's a big honor for me to be here. I'm an Ohio guy. You're a Cincinnati guy. I went to school in Cincinnati. And so growing up, like my daughter picked 14 for her sports jersey.
Right.
And it was a coincidence that it was mine. But I tell you what, when I played sports, I was 14, and it was because of you. Everybody, there was a brawl to get your jersey, man. So, well, hey, let's jump into it, okay?
I bet you had number 5. You had Johnny Bench's jersey.
All right, hey.
You know, I want to fill out one of those things and ask Jesus, because I'm going today to Cincinnati, and I want to ask him who the hell is going to win the game tomorrow, the Cardinals or the Reds. Not that I'm going to bet on it. We've already been through that.
When did you know that you wanted to be a baseball player? How old were you, and what were the circumstances?
Well, believe it or not, when I was in high school, I was a better football player. And my father was the only member of the old Cincinnati Bengals, didn't go to college. So football was kind of my life. But I had an inside that many people didn't have. I had an uncle who was a scout for the Reds. And when I was a senior in high school, I was ineligible to play all sports. Not because I was dumb, although I was dumb. But see, when I was a freshman, I had a real good year as a football player, and then at my high school in Cincinnati, you have to be invited out to go out for the varsity, and they didn't invite me out my sophomore year, but they invited the guy that played behind me, because they said I was too small, and it kind of just ruined me for school, and I said, heck it, I'm not going to school, so I flunked my first sophomore year, then I started growing, and I made the team my second sophomore year, and I made All-State my junior year, and I was ineligible my senior year.
Oh, wow.
And my senior year, I played up in Dayton, Ohio, in an amateur league, and I was 25 for 50 in that league. And the last game I had on a Wednesday night, I went 5 for 5, and I graduated on a Friday, signed with the Reds on a Saturday, left on a Sunday to go to Geneva, New York to play for the Reds there. The second baseman on that team was Tony Perez, who was 2 months out of Cuba, and I was 3 days out of high school. So that's 54 years ago. I met Tony Perez, and I saw him about 2 weeks ago. Went to lunch with him, sat there for an hour and a half, and had no damn idea what he said. Here, Tony Perez, I just want to go back to Cuba. He said, Castro won't die. He said, Castro die here. Raul take over. He said, I just want to go home. Hang in there, doggy. You got to outlive 2 Castros.
Is it true your rookie season, I read somewhere, your rookie season, you lived at home and you shared a room with your brother. Is that true?
My rookie season, yeah, in the big league, sure.
You stayed at home?
I was making $7,000 a year. When I signed my first baseball contract, I got $400 a month for 5 months.
Wow. Wow.
You make that much every Sunday, don't you?
Yeah. But you compare it to what people are making now.
Yeah.
You've just always had this blue-collar, humble thing about you. You wouldn't have been very ostentatious if you would have got a $10 million contract.
I got a bonus when I signed with the Reds, and I cashed it to the local drugstore. It was 7,000. That's what it was.
Right.
And I did it for nothing. I did it for 18 years for nothing. These guys are crazy. They're going to pay me to play baseball?
Right, right.
You know, I tell you how the salaries have changed. Man, it's a big place here. Hey, how you guys doing? I signed with the Phillies for the '79 season, and my salary was $810,000 a year, which made me the highest paid player in team sports. Now, yesterday or 2 days before, Cabrera signed for $31 million a year. So it went from $810,000 for the '79 season to $31 million for the 2014 season.
Wow.
That's how much it's increased.
So besides us,
So anybody has potential to be a baseball player out there, get up right now and go to the field. Start practicing.
hey, besides us both being from Ohio,
Yeah.
there's one more thing we share in common. I read somewhere that you've only had one hero in your life, and that was your father.
Oh, yeah.
And why is that? How is he different from the other fathers of guys your age, and what made you look up to him?
Well, he was prompt. He was aggressive. He was a great father, great husband. He was a banker. Didn't own a bank, but he worked at the bank. And he always taught me the right way to play the game, and he always knew when to teach me. He didn't ever yell at me when I was on the field. You know, everybody in the audience here has kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews. Don't tell me that you don't feel better on the way home from any kind of sporting event when the one that you went to watch is playing and they do good and they win. Everybody feels better, including my dad. You know, if we lost a game, he wouldn't even stop to eat, okay? If we went into a slump, it was like going to Jenny Craig. You got to earn that food, son. Reverend, I'll give you one story, then it will kind of clarify why I got all those hits. You know, I won the batting title in '68 and '69, and my dad died in December of '70. And he used to go to every game. First thing I do when I got to the ballpark is I put Pete Rose Sr. 4 tickets. And he would come every night and never stay because he had to get up and go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. So there's one particular night, I come out to the park lot after the game, he's standing by my car. So right away I think my mom's sick because she's a hypochondriac. And she outlived my dad by 30 years, by the way. So I said, Dad, what's up? Is Mom sick? He said, no, let me ask you a question, son. I said, what's that? He said, that second time up tonight when you hit that ground ball to second base, and I remember there was a guy on third, and the guy threw me a hanging changeup where I should have hit a rope somewhere, and I topped it to the second baseman. And I was thinking about that on the way down to first. He said, did you run hard to first? And I thought, and I said, no, I guess I didn't. He says, well, don't embarrass me in this town like that. He said, I taught you the right way to run the bases. He said, when you hit the ball, you run until the umpire says out or safe. He said, now I'll see you tomorrow. I said, okay, Dad. And he was a boxer, too, so I wasn't going to mess with him.
Did you have one of those, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm on the same field with this player moment, like earlier in your career? Who did that happen?
No, that happened one time to me. My first All-Star game in 1965 in Minneapolis. The guy put me between Aaron and Mays.
Wow.
I didn't know whether to wind my butt or scratch my watch. What am I doing here? Hank Aaron, Willie Mays? I was looking for God. He had to be next to one of them guys. Jiminy.
At some point, you picked up the nickname Charlie Hustle. How did that happen?
Well, I went to spring training in 1963 on a non-roster contract. For those of you who don't understand that, the Major League rosters are 40 guys, and they get to go to spring training, and they invite certain people. Because I come off of two straight 330 years in D-ball and A-ball. And we went from Tampa over to Fort Lauderdale to play the Yankees. And my day was finished if I wanted to do, but I had to wait for the bus to go back to Tampa, which is a 3.5-hour ride. And we had a coach named Mike Reba. And he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going out and do my running in the outfield. You know how they run the outfield in spring training. And he said, well, stick around. You might get in the game. You never know. So where was I going? I had to wait for the bus anyway. So I'm sitting on the bench, and they needed a pinch runner in the ninth. And I pinched a run. I was on first base, and a guy hit a base hit to the left fielder. And I just kept right on going and went in the third, head first, safe. and the next guy hit a little pop-up that Tony Kubek was treading water to go back to left field to catch it, and I tagged up from third and went home head first, and I was safe, and we beat the Yankees 2-1. Now, Mickey Mantle's in there talking to Whitey Ford after the game, and there's writers all over the place. And Mickey said, "Did you see Charlie Hustle beat us today?" And the next day in the paper in New York, it said, "Charlie Hustle beats Yanks."
Wow. So by 1970, you're no longer a rookie. You've established yourself as a player to be reckoned with, and you're heading into the All-Star game. Now, you know where I'm going with this question. So you get to the All-Star game, all right?
My knee still hurts.
And I want to show everybody this clip. Take a look at this clip, and you got a lot of flack for this, all right? So can we go to that clip?
Pete Rose played baseball at 1 speed, and that gear was on full display in 1970. The game was tied in the bottom of the 12th when Charlie Hustle rounded third looking to score on a Jim Hickman single. And suddenly, Ray Fosse was all that stood between Rose and a National League win. The collision left Fosse with a separated shoulder, and Rose unapologetic about his effort to win.
I did start to slide, but he left me no recourse because there was no place to slide, and there's no sense in ever sliding into a bag if you can't get the bag.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, if we were playing today, he'd have been illegal because you can't block the plate without the ball. That had a lot of a Cub atmosphere. Jim Hickman hit the ball. Leo DeRocher was coaching third. Is there any Cub fans in the audience?
No.
Why?
Hopefully.
Why? Do you know what God told the Cubs? Don't do nothing till I get back. There was a lady over in Iowa about 8 months ago. This is a true story. This is true. She had her 115th birthday. 115th. She was in the 6th grade when the Cubs won. That's a long time. She lived in 3 centuries. Think about that. And you're a Cub fan. God bless you. God help you.
So 75-76, you win the World Series. And
I forgot.
Go ahead.
Pardon me for interrupting. However, that clip was wrong, okay, because I didn't separate his shoulder. I missed the next 3 games with a bad knee. He didn't miss any games, and he went on to play 9 more years. And by the way, I took him out to eat the night before the game. I did. Him and Sam McDowell was a friend of mine, and he was a rookie, and he was added to the team with about a week before the game, and Sam called me and said, "Can Ray go out with us?" And I took them both out to eat, and then went back to my house after the game to talk baseball, because he wanted to know everything in the world about Johnny Bench, because he was the next coming of Johnny Bench, okay? So, and if you looked at the clip, I started to slide head first. What's better than sliding head first in a home in an all-star game? It's 50 million people watching. You know, make more money. And I was saying, "Oh no, I can't slide. I'm going to break both my collarbones." So I went over and I tagged the plate with this hand, and this knee hit his shin guard, and I went straight to the trainer's room. And that's 3 of the 10 games I missed in the 70s.
Wow. So
are you that consistent coming here?
Stop!
It's okay if you are.
All right. So you went 2 World Series with the Reds, Big Red Machine. I remember that. My gosh, those were the years. My question to you is, you know, the difference between a professional athlete and a celebrity is that people recognize you when they're not even baseball fans. When it seems that in the trajectory of your career, that was the point where you became a celebrity. Like everybody knew who you were, whether or not they followed baseball or not.
It's because of exposure.
How did that change your life personally? Like,
Well,
did you start traveling with a posse, a security guard?
No, I'm not one of those type of guys. You start expecting more out of yourself, you know, because baseball is all about a team. And even when I played for the Phillies, you know, I had great players: Boa, Lazinski, Maddox, Boone, McBride, Schmidt. You know, and I figured out in the mid-'70s, the Phillies could never get to the World Series. Why? Because they couldn't beat the Reds. So I said, well, we'll solve this. I'll go to Philly. And it worked. And Mike Schmidt was the best player I ever played with. And I played with a lot of good players, and I played against a lot of good players. I mean, I played against Stan Musial, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Roberto Clemente. And for you smart Alex, I didn't play against Babe Ruth.
So at what point?
Can I tell my Willie Mays story? I hope I don't offend anybody.
Tell your Willie Mays story.
I'm probably going to offend somebody, but this is funny. It's a true story.
We'll edit the video.
We'll
edit. Go ahead.
I'm at an All-Star game one time, and Willie's at the next table. And Willie was one of the greatest players ever, and he was cool, man. He had a light gray sharkskin suit on, with a white shirt and a purple tie. And we're talking for about an hour, and he goes to the bathroom. He says, I'll be right back. So he comes back, and I notice he's got water all over both sides of his pants. And I look at him, I said, Willie, what the heck's going on? And here's the way Willie is. He says, man, you ain't gonna believe this. I said, what's up, Willie? He said, I was in there taking a pee, and the guy said, ain't you Willie Mays? You peed on me.
All right, so
I got permission to do that in the back.
Oh, you did. Dan gave you permission. All right. So
that's as bad as it gets.
78, you decide you sign with the Phillies.
78.
What's your impression? What was your impression of Philadelphia sports fans? We don't have the best reputation.
Well, I don't know about that because I got to figure this way, that all Philly fans want two things. They want you to bust your chops and they want to win. And that's what they should want. I mean, don't accept mediocrity. That's what Cub fans do. That's what White Sox fans do. That's what Seattle fans do. If you don't want them to get better, they're not going to get better. And Philadelphia, see, I knew Schmitty, I knew Boa, I knew Lazinski, because when they come into Cincinnati, I'd always go out to eat with them.
Right.
I didn't go out with other teams because I got along with those guys because we were always on the All-Star games together. And see, the problem with the Phillies in those days was everybody I mentioned, McBride, Maddox, Lazinski, Schmidt, Boa, Boone, they were all about the same age. They all come through the Philly organization, except McBride. He come through the Cardinal organization. And they didn't have a team leader. Not because Mike Schmidt didn't respect Larry Boa, but if you got 6 guys that are all 28 to 30, one of them is not going to be a team leader. So here, all of a sudden I come in, and I'm 5 or 6 years older than them. I got world championships under my belt. And all they knew about me is what they saw 12 days a year. That's how many times we played the Phillies. And we didn't win the first year, and I had a great year. I got a couple hundred hits. I hit 330, something like that. I remember we were playing in New York one time. I was with Lazinski last night, and I got served divorce papers. And I went 21 for the next 32. He said, how in the heck do you do that? I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, if you know you're going to get divorced, are you better off hitting 450 or 150? And he had to think about it. But we had a good team here. The Phillies had a good team here. They won every year. Danny Ozark won 3 straight divisional titles. So you just need a little bit of icing on the cake. And I think, I get all this pat on the back for doing this for Mike Schmidt or that for Mike Schmidt. When I got to Philadelphia for the '79 season, I thought that Mike Schmidt was the best player in the league 3 days a week. And after playing a year with me, he became the best player in the league 7 days a week. Because I made him understand that you're not going to hit a home run every day. Lead with your leadership. Lead with your base running. Lead with your defense. Lead with your running hard, playing hard. And those are other things you can lead your team in. And he took that responsibility, and that's why he's the greatest third baseman in the history of baseball. No question about it.
Yeah. So you're there, win the World Series. You fast forward, right? You're back with the Reds, September 11th, 1985, right?
Yes.
Remember, it was a night game because I was sitting in my living room with my family. And I want to show everybody a clip of what happened going from 41-91 to this.
Everybody on their feet here in Cincinnati.
That's my mom right there in the gray hair.
Worldwide television audience watching these moments tonight here at Riverfront Stadium.
He levels the bat a couple of times. Shao kicks and he fires. Rose swings. There it is! There it is! Get out! Get out! All right! Hit number 4192. A line drive single into left center field. A clean base hit. It is pandemonium here at Riverfront Stadium.
For Pete Rose, this certainly is crowning achievement. And for baseball, a game that grows from its past and finds warmth in statistics, this is one of the all-time great moments. The only thing I'm disappointed
You know what was a couple of things about that. I got a 9-minute standing ovation. So that's during the ovation right there. And I think what happens, well, I know what happens. You start thinking about everybody that can't be there that's responsible for you being there. And that's what brings the tears.
What do you think your dad would have said if he was there?
He was up there fighting with Ty Cobb.
Holding him down?
Yeah. I don't know what he'd have said. You know, when you play the game the way I played the game, if there had been an out or 2 outs, I'd have went to second on that ball. Because when I hit it, I knew it was going to bounce high. And Martinez was playing left field. But you play the game right, you can't get thrown out of second to start the inning off. So if it had been an out or 2, I'd have went to second and did a head first slide, and I'd probably made a double. That's just the way you play, even in that moment. But see, another thing about that you have to understand, I was born in Cincinnati. Okay? They're playing the game Monday on Pete Rose Way.
Yeah. So Pete, you are arguably one of the greatest players of all time at that point. You fast forward a number of years, and you knew I was going to ask you a couple questions about this. And then you're banned from the game for gambling. And I just want to preface, I want to preface, this is your kind of church. You would fit in here. Because we're a church all about second chances. And there's not, the why people love you so much is because we're just like you. And we all have experienced second and third and fourth and fifth chances. So the questions I'm going to ask you are not coming from a position that you get so often in the press of judgment and that sort of thing, but just asking some honest questions that maybe you can teach us something, okay? So my question is, when you knew that the cat was out of the bag and that it was over, like, and they had you, what were you feeling personally? Because so often when
personally, I was worried because I had 2 small kids and I'm in my 40s and the only craft I ever knew was baseball. And it wasn't the kind of deal that you would think the way it went down, because it wasn't where I was calling someone every day and betting on the games. I told the guy before the season started I want to bet on my team every night, a certain amount.
Right.
Okay, so it's not like no one in the clubhouse ever knew I was betting. No coaches, no players, no clubhouse guys, and I was wrong. And I was wrong. However, I wasn't betting when I was a player. It's when I become a manager, because I had so much love and respect for all my young players. They were like my sons. And I wanted to bet on them because I needed something extra, because I wasn't getting the at-bats. I wasn't playing in the field. And I was wrong, but all the vices are bad. You know, I know before someone says something about that. Alcoholism is bad. Drug abuse is bad. Spousal abuse is bad. But in the eyes of baseball, if you do those first 3, you get a second chance. And I can't answer the question because I'm a good citizen. I pay taxes. I work hard. I'm the best ambassador baseball has, and they don't even want me in the game. When I say they, I'm talking about the high echelon people. But, you know, the players do. I get texts from players every day about what I can do to help them. And, you know, I'll be talking to all the Reds players on Monday. I'm not allowed in the clubhouse, you know, but I'll be sitting right there where I can see them all. And you know, when I first got suspended, I was scared to go to the ballpark because I made so many people feel uncomfortable. The people who parked the car, the elevator operator, is he allowed on here? You know, I felt like I was Al Capone. You know what I mean? So, but that's what happens. My advice to anybody out there that has any kind of problem is get it out fast as you can. Don't put it behind you, because with social media today and the way it is, people will find out anything they want to find out about you today. Okay, and that's the only advice I can give you, whether it's A-Rod or whether it's Bonds or whether it's Clemens or whether it's Pastor Brian. You got any skeletons in your closet?
Put A-Rod's picture up here. That was my next question. Alistair Rodriguez, okay, to me represents the disparity between what you did and what, I mean, countless baseball players. I mean, what are you going to do? So you have, I pick up the USA Today. Barry Bonds is a hitting coach, right? You have A-Rod, admits doing steroids right after 2000, right? Does them again. Everybody catches him red-handed. Everybody knows that he's doing it. How is steroids different from what you did?
Well, I'll say a couple things first, okay? And I'm not saying anybody here, but fans are partly responsible for what he's talking about. You remember when the Yankees' Giambi got caught with drugs, okay, and he came back to Yankee Stadium, he took the field. He got a standing ovation. The fans gave him a standing ovation because he took drugs, because he admitted it. I mean, so baseball looks at gambling in a very different way because of what happened in 1919 with the Black Sox scandal. You know, almost ruined baseball. I understand that. I know what happened in 1919. I don't know what Joe Jackson did. But one thing I didn't do is I never bet against my own team, and I never threw a game. I bet on my own team to win every night. If you want to know the truth, I was wrong, but every manager should do that, because you do everything in your power to try to win the game. And as manager of the Reds, my job was to win games. It was to win games. I did nothing to alter statistics of baseball. Wouldn't it be nice, Reverend, if you could talk to Roger Maris today, or you could talk to Babe Ruth? Hank Aaron won't talk about it. Those are the guys whose record's been shattered because of steroids. Ain't nobody going to beat my record with steroids. Hell, if I'd have took steroids, I'd have got 5,000 hits.
All right, so we've been talking around here about second chances.
Yeah.
And this is a really important message in the Bible. You know, if you were to summarize what the Bible talks about, is when God looks at people like you and me and every single person in this room, he doesn't define our lives by the worst decisions we've made. Every single person in this seat, and you and me, we all have made bad decisions. But for you, it seems that you are not getting that second chance. Philip Yancey is a Christian writer, okay? He left the church and eventually came back. He said, you want to know why I left the church? I left the church because I found so little grace. But the reason I came back is because I found grace nowhere else. And I wonder, over the years, 25 years, after everything that you've given to the game, surely that has to take a toll on your soul after a while. And you hold your cards close to your chest, right? You don't talk a lot about that. You take personal responsibility. I did this. Don't blame Jim. Don't blame anybody. But surely that has to hurt.
Well, you know, when you can't be part of something that you were a part of for over a half a century, and you can't be part of that, and you can't give back to it for all the opportunities it did for you, and when you don't quite understand it, it's one guy's decision. His name's Bud Selig. Nobody else's decision. He could call me tomorrow and say, I'm reinstating you. But he won't do that, and he also won't tell my people, no, I'm not going to. He says, well, we're thinking about it. Well, he's thinking about it for 24 years. You know, and he's 80 years old now. He makes $23 million a year. He's got his own jet. And he don't do anything. That's a hell of a job to have. And he's leaving after this year. I don't know who's going to take over. I won't have any chance of being reinstated if his best friend takes over. But if someone takes over and wants to clean up the whole PED situation and get rid of everybody in the commissioner's office, then you'd have a better chance. But I'm doing the same thing in my life this year as I did last year, that I did 10 years ago, that I did 15 years ago, even 20 years ago. You know, I had my problems in 1987. 1987 is when I bet on baseball. 2 weeks ago, I was on a cover of Sports Illustrated. Haven't played since '86. Can't they find someone else to get on the cover?
All right. Here.
You know, in 1973, I got beat out for Sportsman of the Year in a cover of Time magazine. You know who beat me out? Secretariat, a horse. Beat me out for Athlete of the Year. A horse.
All right.
A horse that Mars didn't own.
Pete, we'd love to stay here forever and ask you a bunch of questions. I do have a pretty serious question. One of the greatest baseball players to ever come out of the state of Ohio was a pitcher. And
What city? Columbus?
Columbus. And I want to show you his picture. I want you to tell me if you think you could have hit off this guy right here.
I think I could hit off that guy today. Look at them stirrups on them socks.
Come on, man. That was 84. All right. Hey, before we let Pete go, I want to say this. We're the kind of church that believes what the Bible says about second chances. And you may be here this morning and you're like, you know what? I got to be honest. I'm not really a church-going person. I came here to hear Pete. That's great. But I do want you to know this. When you get to the point in your life where you have a need in your life, or you're interested in spiritual matters, or you have kids that have questions that you don't think you can answer, I want you to think of our place as home base, okay? We want you to know we'll be your church and I'll be your pastor, and hopefully you'll come back. But for right now,
thank you very much. I hope I didn't offend anybody.
You have been fantastic. Everybody, let's thank Pete Rose. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.